So hello, everyone, and I think we should begin in time. Sara, good to go?
Yeah, I'm fine, yeah.
All right. Welcome to Sara Education Enrichment Workshops. I am Shifani Juneja, the moderator of the workshop today. Like always, let me begin with the norms of the session today. We're going to keep everyone on the mute today because to avoid all the background noises that may distract you from listening to the speaker. And do not use the chat boxes for greetings and introductions. We will have a 15 minutes of question and answer round towards the end of the session. So keep a note of all the questions that you may have in the end. And Sara would give us time for that. And to begin with, I'm afraid of grammar. Rules go completely over my head. And the exception to the rules drives me crazy. What is the correct spelling of advice? SE or CE? So these English grammar rules or fears we all get from time to time. What are yours and are they worth being scared of? Let's understand the jolly grammar in a jolly way by Sara. And I'm privileged again to introduce Sara Wernham again on this workshop. Thank you so much. And I mean, we all thank you for coming here again. Sara is a primary elementary school teacher in Woodslow Primary School in England. And she has developed Jolly Phonics with Sue Lloyd. She is a proud author of Jolly Grammar too. So I think let's begin, and let me share that this workshop is ideal for the educators who wants to gain a thorough understanding of the principles of Jolly Phonics and grammar. I wouldn't take much of your time, Sara, so over to you. Welcome again.
Yeah, grammar is an interesting thing, isn't it? I have to say, both with spelling and grammar, if anyone who knew me before my teaching days knew or knows what I'm doing now, they find it somewhat amusing and slightly incredible. My spelling was appalling at school, mostly because I was not taught through phonics. We were taught look and say, hold up cards. If you've got a good memory, which I did have, actually reading wasn't so bad because you have a context for it. You've got sentences, you've got pictures on the page. But my bête noire was spelling. And, you know, I just couldn't remember which words came in which order because I had no concept of the idea that the sounds had anything to do with the letters, which sounds completely ridiculous now, but I assure you it was true. And I always say I learned to spell with my first reception class when I was with Sue and we were developing this program. And it makes life so much easier if you do know the rules that you can apply, because then you only have to learn the exceptions, which are much less than people think, although English is a very complex language. And as those of you who've done a workshop with me before will know, I describe the English as language magpies. If we like that word, we take it. Do we not only take the word, we take the spelling. So we have many different ways to spell the different sounds that we have in our language. But in fact, there are rules and there are groups and things that you could do to make sense of the whole thing, which is what we try and teach within the programme. I have to say it was the same with grammar. I was at school at a time when grammar wasn't considered to be particularly relevant to be taught, because obviously when English children were speaking, they were speaking grammatically, because you sort of learn grammar innately by listening to what's going on around you. Having to explain it or understand it explicitly is a completely different way of looking at things. And we hadn't really been taught much grammar except in our language classes. But again, it was very, very small. So when Chris said, "Oh, I think you could do grammar," that was a very steep learning curve for Sue and myself. But I have to say, it was one of the best and most interesting journeys that I might have been on. And in many ways, again, by knowing the rules, as I hope we will see as we go on today, it does make life so much easier. Just little things. Is it its, IT apostrophe S, or is it its, ITS? Actually, there is a rule. And if it's a contraction of it is, then it's the apostrophe. Any other time it's not. It's so simple. And yet, even now I read newspapers, I read magazines, I see posters in shops or whatever, and it's random sometimes, but just that little nugget of knowledge and all those problems have gone away. So let's get on with the business of today. If I start sharing my screen here. Right. Previously, and I don't know how many people have attended that, and it doesn't matter whether you did or not, we have looked at the basics of the Jolly Phonics programme, so sort of the first year. And the one before Christmas, we looked at introducing the grammar programme, and in particular grammar 1 and 2 into schools. And today, we're looking at the next set of books up, which is grammar 3 and 4. It works quite well if I break them down into 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 5 and 6, because they sort of work quite well like that, and in order to explain them. We are a systematic synthetic program, okay? Systematic, fairly self-evident. We build the information, we build the knowledge of the children up a little bit at a time. And it doesn't matter whether it's the 42 letter sounds and how to blend them. It doesn't matter whether it's the grammar. We are still building that children's knowledge up. We give them a little bit, then we say, what do they need next? What do they need to learn next? And we teach that. Synthetic, I tend to think of as being plastic, not real. But if you look it up in the dictionary, it actually means the putting together of elements, which again, it describes the grammar just as much as the initial phonic element of it. We're building up the knowledge, the little elements that go together so that they come out with a holistic and comprehensive, hopefully, knowledge of grammar, which is the rules for any language, but obviously we're talking about English grammar today. Our grammar is basically of Germanic origin. But as I say, because we have had things like Norman French put onto it when Norman the Conqueror invaded in 1066, and then we have taken other things in as well. It's our own, it's complex, but it's not impossible, okay? So our programme, or the grammar programme, there's actually 7 years worth. There's the phonics handbook, which is the first year. And then there's the grammars 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay, so it is a complete programme. It will take them through up to 11 in the English schools. If you're doing as a second or additional language, then most people normally, you know, have to go slower because obviously you've got a lot of language acquisition, vocabulary work to do at the same time as well. It comes in two forms, the handbooks, which are photocopyable, but they're black and white, and the pupil books, where you have a teacher book for you, and there is a pupil book that each child has, and they write in their own pupil book, and they have coloured sheets in because it looks nicer. The content is the same, okay? It doesn't matter which you use, which is best for you. The content is the same. We started off with the black and white photocopyable books, but a lot of teachers, particularly if they were running, you know, after school classes or private classes, actually didn't like having lots of sheets, loose sheets. So actually the pupil books made sense because they could buy them, they could use them with the children. It was that child's book, it could go home with them, and it just looks, you know, much nicer. But as I say, the content of both is the same. You can have both, but you don't need to have both. You can run it from one or the other because they both have the information that you need in it. And as I say, the main point of what we're doing, the main point of learning grammar, it's a bit like when I say with the sounds, it's great that the children learn 42 sounds, but actually that's not the reason they're doing it. The reason they're learning 42 sounds is because we want them to learn to blend those sounds to read them and to be able to hear them in words and listen to them for writing. And it's the same with grammar. We don't just want to teach them that, you know, a noun is a name word, because that is great knowledge. It's great general knowledge, might be good in a pub quiz. Okay, but actually what we want to teach, or what we want, is to make sure that you or me as a teacher and the child write and say exactly what you mean. The other thing I found when I was actually trying it in a school locally, the grammar, one of the teachers came to me and said, do you know, the thing that I find so good, she said, is I now have a vocabulary to speak to the children. The dialect or the way of speaking around where I live, they don't have irregular past tenses. Okay, so we might say, I swam. Right, if I do it now, I swim, but yesterday I swam. But they would say I swimmed. Okay, it's just a local accenty dialect thing. But she said I can now explain to them that although they might hear their parents saying that, and it's fine, but actually, you know, the past tense is this. But she said, because I can talk about verbs, because I can talk about past tenses, I can start explaining these things to the children in a way they understand, and not just by saying, that's wrong, you shouldn't say that. You know, she said, I'm giving them an understanding of the language as well. So that's really what we're aiming for, to increase their knowledge in what grammar is. But the idea is that we are going to use it, and they are going to use it within what they do. So as they say, handbooks, teacher books, it doesn't matter. You will have a set of teacher's notes, which will give you all the information that you need. So even if you are not particularly confident or don't think you know much about the grammar, whatever, if you can read the teacher's notes, it will give you the information that you need. It sets out a structure with some revision and introduction, main points, etc. So it will guide you through. Okay. Once you've done the program or the lessons a few times, I am quite sure you won't need it at all, and that you'll be able to sort of adapt it to yourself, to the children you're teaching, because it's always so much better if what you're teaching has a direct link of information and ideas to the children that you are teaching. The little notey book thing at the top tells you things that you need, if you need scissors or pencils or coloured paper. And as you go up, it will also link it back to where the same subject has been taught before, which could be particularly important if you are teaching grammar 3 or 4 or higher, if you are introducing it into the school for the first time. Because as I say, it is a progressive programme. So in grammar 3, there are certain things that we will assume that the children and the teachers know, Okay, and if they don't, and you just leap in at grammar 3, both you and the children will probably be slightly confused. So you do need to make sure that that you either teach what they don't know when you've had a look at it, or that you do some sort of either a little catch-up program, or even when you're introducing it, that even though you might be in year 3, you introduce perhaps grammar 2, and run them through that for a bit. So as a teacher, it's up to you to work out what your children do already know, and fill in the gaps, or that if they don't know it, then you're going to have to rejig things a bit. And then as the program rolls through the school, obviously that will not then be a problem anymore, because they will all be on the right year groups. But if you've been doing any form of grammar and they know certain things, then you should be able to work out the appropriate place to start, or the appropriate bits of information that you need to fill in. Okay, I'm just going to go over some of the basic stuff. We say we have 5 basic skills, which is learning the letter sounds, letter formation, blending, which equates to reading, so cat, identifying the sounds in words, so listening for them, snakes, which is spelling. And then we have what we call tricky words, which are the words that don't conform either to rules at all, like laugh, or to the rules that we have taught them at the moment. Unfortunately, many of the common, frequently used words are not necessarily spelt phonetically regularly, but we do have to have them in order to make sentences. So we teach them almost as sight words, but what we say is just look for the tricky bits. So if it's a word like said, the S is regular, the AI isn't, the D is regular. So you identify that AI in the middle, and you get the children to remember that that's a bit they need to remember, because they don't need to learn the whole of it, because some of it is you can just hear it and it's fine. So those are our 5 basic skills, and actually they run throughout the program. I always say that if your reception teacher has done their job properly, it makes everybody else's lives so much easier, because actually after that, what you are doing is just refining and adding to those basic skills and basic ideas that that the children, hopefully, as I say, have already got. So while many people may look at very young children teaching and think it's just an advanced form of babysitting or something, it's not. It's very, very important, because all the foundations for learning, that's where they are laid down, that's where they are put in. And it's very difficult to try and do that later on, when the child has either, well, it feels it's failed because it hasn't learned for whatever reason, or they've been turned off school and they've got into bad behavior. So as I say, that first year, very, very important. And these are our 5 basic skills. Now, early years teachers, reception teachers, are normally pretty good on things like blending and segmenting or identifying sounds in words, because they do it a lot. They're used to teaching it. As we go up the year groups, particularly when I go into schools, I quite often find that actually is not the case, because they're not teaching reading and writing in the way that the early years teachers are. They're really teaching spelling. And, some of them have never worked in early years. That's just a statement of fact. It's not, that's just what happens in schools. Some people teach in the early years, some are in the junior years. And actually, they haven't got the idea of what blending is, or the sounds in words, or how to segment, because they've never had to do it, okay? Because that's not how it's been approached. But we try and take the same approach across the whole. You are always refining what they know, and applying what they know as they go across their journey of learning English. So as I say, sometimes what we find is when I go into schools, when I ask questions like this, I get some quite interesting answers from higher up the year group sometimes. So I'm just going to give you just a minute, no more, to have a look at these words and either write down if you've got a pencil in front of you, or just think in your head, how many sounds are in these words? I'm not going to ask anyone to answer. There's too many people for that. But it's just for your own ideas. Often for the junior teachers, particularly if they've been teaching a while, what I get is they either count the number of letters. So they would tell me duck has 4. Sometimes they might count the syllables. It happens less often these days, but it's still quite amazing, as I say. So when you're listening to a word, our language, English, is made up of sounds, okay? And writing is a way of encoding those sounds. And reading, you uncode the sounds if the person is not in front of you and can't speak directly to you. Okay, so it is very sensible to learn and to teach through the sounds. So, duck, okay? It actually has 3 sounds in it. D, A, K, because that C and the K are together, okay? So they're only one sound. Rabbit has 5. R, A, B, I, T. Okay, because we teach them that when 2 sounds, just like the CK, when 2 sounds that make the same sound come together, you only say it once. Swing. S, w, I, ng. Okay, that ng sound at the end. The sw at the beginning is often what catches people out. Okay, they go sw, I, ng, because that sw sound is what we call a blend. Okay, a digraph are where 2 letters make the same sound. So something like the sh in sh is a digraph. It's 2 letters that come together and they make a completely different sound. But in something like swing, although it blends together and it's quite difficult to hear, when you slow it down, both of those sounds are still there. So that's why that's a blend. It's a consonant blend, and it's an initial consonant blend because it's obviously at the beginning of the word, whereas the at the end is a different sound to ng. Okay, so that's 4. The next one is a trick question. Right? You will say ox, okay, because it's got that X. X and Q in English actually don't have their own sounds technically. Okay, X is made up of a k, s, which is why I've put 3 here. Ok, s. You can hear it if you listen carefully. The same with something like quick. It's not qu, it's k, w. Okay, that's the technical thing of it. But because we are teaching small children and they are going to see that letter X, or they are going to see that QU digraph, okay, they just need a sound to say to it. It just makes it so much easier to do it that way and more obvious and logical for small children. Okay, but as a teacher, you know, we can know that ox is ox. Okay, it doesn't really matter to the children. As I say, they get that sound, they say that sound, they can do it. But technically, that is. Then we got a word like through, which again causes quite a lot of discussion normally when I'm doing this. Th, r, oo. All those letters, but actually only 3 sounds. The th at the beginning, the r and then the OUGH is just saying ooh. And in fact, OUGH is terrible because it can make a number of sounds in English, about 5 or 6 or 7, I can't remember now, but it's one of the ones that have got the most number of sounds attached to a single spelling. Okay, one of the reasons English is so horrible. And then the last one, I've just been making batches of this, marmalade, 7, m, r, m, a, l, a, d. Okay, as words get longer, okay, it gets more difficult to sound them out into individual sounds sometimes, just because, you know, there's more of them. But anyway, as I say, just a quick check that we are all thinking in sounds and we're not counting words or not counting letters or anything like that. So before we leap into grammar 3, what should we and the children know? Okay, well, they should know the basic 42 letter sounds, which is what are taught. Okay. They should be able to hear the difference between the long and the short vowel sounds. We technically have 5 vowels in English: A, E, I, O, and U, the letters. Okay. Y is a cousin and can sometimes take the place of I, but we say we have 5 vowel sounds. They have their short sounds, which is A, E, O, and A. And they also have their long sounds, which is A, E, I, O, and U. Okay, and they need to be able to hear the difference between them. One of the reasons being actually it's mostly the vowels that make our language and our spelling a bit difficult. So if you're looking out for those and you can hear them, again, that's the first step to making life easier for everybody. They should know the main alternatives for the vowel sounds. So we start off by teaching one way of writing a sound. So if it's the sound A, we start off with AI. We teach one way of writing it. When the children understand that and know that, then we start introducing the main alternatives. So it might be AY in a word like hey, or the A hop over E, or magic E, or split digraph in a word like snake. Okay, so we start building up a little bit at a time. This is a different way of spelling the same sound, but it comes in quite a lot of words. The AY is a different way of spelling it. It generally comes at the end of a word because I doesn't like to come on the end of a word in English. Okay, so we start telling them these things and it's all used all the way through the scheme because actually there's a lot of overlap. Okay, and the doubling rule, they should know that if it's a short vowel, if there's another vowel coming after it, they need to double that consonant like it's swimming, because if we didn't have a double M, that the influence from the I in ing would go back and it would make it swimming, which is not the right word at all. If you think of a word like hop, okay, if you double the P, you get hopped. If you don't double the P, you get hoped. It can change the word. The same with the CK and the K. Again, I catch teachers out with this no end. I ask them a very simple question. I say, how do you know when to use CK and K? And most of the time they just go, I just know, because that's how the word's spelt. Okay. But again, if it's a short vowel, you need CK. If it's any other vowel sound, you only have K. So leak, snake. Okay. It's quite simple. It actually works, I think, virtually 100% of the time, which is very unusual for rules in English. But again, once they know it, you just keep on applying it, as we'll see a bit later on. Lots of revision. As I say, we do lots of revision, we do lots of building up, and you need to make sure, as I say, that the children, when you leap into grammar 3, know their single letter sounds, the digraph sounds, the doubling rule. They can cope with compound words, breaking up a word like mushroom into the 2 bits, mush, room, because it helps with longer words. And again, about when to use a CK and K. Now, if you look at the spelling list in Grammar 1, this is the first spelling list. This has examples of all those things in there. So you can give them this spelling test as a dictation, or they can take it home, whatever it is, and you can check that they can cope you can assess that they know these things and that therefore you are safe to then carry on with the rest of the spelling program within Grammar 3. If they don't know one or two bits, if there's one or two things a lot of them are getting wrong, teach it. I know it sounds obvious. I'm sure you would all do that anyway, but you would be surprised what I do come across sometimes, okay? If they don't know any of it, well, then don't start with Grammar 3. Please start with something else that they can do and they do understand, and then you can work them back up to the point where they will be able to start with Grammar 3. Okay. The spelling lists, or as I say, you can use them as vocabulary lists or digraph lists, are made up in, not digraph lists, spelling lists or vocabulary lists, or dictation, that was the word I was looking for. They're built up in the same way. Words 1 to 6 are simple, regular words that use the 42 sounds that we've started with originally. So all the children in the class should be able to cope with those 1 to 6 words. The next set of 6 words are, again, regular, but have alternative spellings or things in them that the children have already been taught. And then the last set are the longer, or they're more unusual words that you know, not all of the children possibly might be so good with. If you've got children that are struggling, that have some form of special need or whatever, it's very simple to differentiate. You can just say, you do the first 6, you know, then others can do up to 12. Hopefully the majority of your class will be able to do all of them. But again, you're not giving different work or singling people out, or, you know, we like to keep life as simple as we can for everybody, for the children and for yourselves. I know one teacher who used to give 1 to 12, and then she would choose 1 out of the bottom ones after the 13 to 18 group, which would be a bonus spelling. So again, you can use it in the way that best suits the children that you are teaching. Do like to give them longer words, and we always have right from the beginning of the scheme, because actually they don't always come across small words. They don't always come across just CCVC words, or, you know, they will come across longer words. They will have to know how to cope with them for reading and for writing. Okay. And actually, you know, it doesn't matter if they get it wrong. I know we're all supposed to get these right, but it's an opportunity to then explain, you know, why they got it wrong, or to help put in some teaching so that they won't make that same mistake in the future. And they need to be able to attempt to write long words. They will use long words when they come to write stories or talk about things. So, you know, they need to have that confidence to tackle them. And eventually they will be right. You know, they will be correct. But as long as they've made an attempt that is plausible and logical, then you will be able to read what they're trying to say. Exactly the same for Grammar 4. It follows, as I say, the same the same idea with the 1 to 6 are fairly simple regular words, and it goes onwards. Obviously, you know, we're moving up a bit. The words are longer, perhaps a little bit more difficult. But again, this is spelling list 1, as you can see. And again, it gives you an opportunity to revise these things and to make sure that the children know them before you launch off into the year that's Grammar 4. Okay, so always, as I say, check what they know, revise or teach what they don't know before you move on. The children have a spelling sheet for each week for the spelling. We have 2 sets of lessons. There is a spelling lesson and a grammar lesson within the books for each week. There is actually a huge amount of crossover between grammar and spelling. You might not think so when you first think about it, hopefully by the time we finish today, you will agree with me. But there are many things that cross the line, okay? So it does actually make sense to look at them together, as I say, hopefully, as I will prove to you as we go through today. I hated spellings at school. I hated being given a spelling test. They were just words I had to learn. I had to learn each individual letter. I never managed it. I was normally told off because I was bright. So obviously the fact that I didn't get full marks was just because I was deliberately not bothering to learn them because I was lazy. So I was always, I never just give my children a list of spellings. I have them on the board, and every day, just for 5 minutes, we will go over them. If we've packed up a bit early to go to play. We've packed up a bit early for lunch, whatever it is, just a few minutes. They're always somewhere on the wall in the classroom, and we'll go through them. We'll go ik, mimic, laptop, and I will model to them the whole time. Then we'll go back the other way, mimic, ik. What sort of k is it? Caterpillar k. Excellent. Okay, like that. As I say, just a little, any few minutes that you've got, it's a good way to fill it in. It gives the children plenty of opportunity of hearing it done, and it also gives those children whose parents at home, for whatever reason, don't speak English, life is busy, especially if you've got, a number of children, don't necessarily have time to do all these things. But even those children that don't have the perfect parents and home life do then get an opportunity to go through these words on a regular basis in the way that you want them to, revising, blending, revising, segmenting, and listening for sounds and words, reminding them of that they need to think about. Neck, it's a CK, sank, it's a K, okay? And I do always still report back to parents weekly. In the book, I say how many they've got right or wrong, so that the parents know, because I feel I'm in a partnership with them. And if I'm asking them to help their children learn something, like the spellings, if I then don't give them any feedback until the end of term or the end of year, it's a bit useless, really. And as a parent, you feel a bit left out. So as I say, I put some feedback as to how they did. And actually within class, particularly if I have children on a range, some on 6 spellings, some on 12 spellings, I always say who got all of their spellings correct, not who got 18 out of 18, who got all of their spellings correct. Okay, and then they can go out to play first or whatever it might be. But then that means that, even if I've got some that are really struggling and they're only on 3, they can still feel they've got all their spellings correct. So as I say, we can use it to help ourselves and to help the children. And again, because of that, we have an activity that uses the spellings, okay? Some form of activity, and that means the children don't just look at it and put it in their bag, okay? It puts the spellings into a meaningful context. We'll see some of the activities in a minute, but there's always an activity connected with the spellings. In this case, they're being put into alphabetical order, which is a grammar aspect, but obviously we need it if we're using the dictionary and things. Okay, the section underneath where it says look up these words in the dictionary. Okay, in grammar 1 and 2, we teach the children to use the dictionary. Again, it's often assumed that everybody knows how to use the dictionary, but that's not the case. Okay, we don't want them starting at A if they want a word beginning with Z. We want them to open the grammar, the dictionary towards the end of the book. So within those grammar 1 and 2, we teach how to use a dictionary. And the children become very good at it, because actually if you want them to use the dictionary, they've got to know how to use it. It's got to be easy, and you don't want them to take up their entire creative writing lesson looking up the word rescue. By the time they've done this, they are so good at looking up words in the dictionary, it's not true. So they write the page number in. So we do that every week. And in fact, again, I know teachers that sort of put this out on a Monday morning on the desk, because the children, once they're used to doing the sheets and they're used to the to the format of them can sort of come in and get on with them more or less by themselves, and then the teacher can teach the bits that they need to and carry on. The bottom of the sheet is always some form of revision, sometimes spelling, sometimes grammar. But again, it's going over things. You know, we all know that if you tell children or teach children something once, it doesn't mean it's gone in. And it might go in that day, but a couple of days later, it's a bit iffy again. So again, lots of going over of the things that we have done and the things that they need to know and remember. And so this is the first spelling sheet in Grammar 3. And that bit at the bottom, again, you can check whether they can hear and whether they understand about the short and long vowels and their spellings, because they have to say the word like cap. Is it short? Is it long? Okay, short. So we ask them to put a little mark over. Say these can be used, these little marks can be used in a number of ways. The next word is cape. Okay, so cape, ape, that's a long one. Brain, that's another long sound. That's a digraph one. Okay, so we've got the word meat underneath as well. So meter, that's a digraph one. That's an E, that's a long sound. So we've put a line. And then dine, I, that's a long sound, but it's a hop over digraph. So we put the line for the long sound, but we put a dot on the E to show that the two are connected. And again, you know, they can use that in their spellings. You can use it for words. I know someone uses them as sort of a duck and dive. You can have great fun actually with this and get them, you know, tuning them in to listen, particularly if they might not be particularly good at it, or if the sounds are new to them. Again, you know, particularly if English is a foreign or additional language, this could be somewhere where extra teaching is needed. Right, the spelling activities. As I say, that was putting words in alphabetical order. It might be filling in the missing letters. They're all words from the spelling list. They have to fill in the missing letters. While they're doing that, they're looking at the word. Okay, now that first one, right, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 6 letters, so it's going to be quite a long one. Right, and the second letter is O, so, oh, yeah, that must be coffee, mustn't it? So that's K for the, okay. You've got this whole set of reasoning going on in the children's head, and they're thinking about the words while they're doing an activity that they find quite fun. Okay, we have vocabulary descriptions. Okay, a word in the spelling list that means something funny, so that would be joke. A word number 2, the word in the spelling list that means on your own, alone. So again, they have to read the definition and then decide which one of those words means that, because we're not only working on spelling, we want spelling and comprehension and vocabulary. We want everything. Okay, we're greedy, we want the lot. But again, by playing about, it gives more meaning to the spellings and to the words, and does a lot of the jobs that they're doing in other times anyway. We have word search, where they have to find the words in the grid of letters. Again, they think it's a game, they think it's an activity, they think it's fun. My idea of learning spellings at school was not fun, but yet they find this fun. Okay, we have crosswords. Again, you know, the clues are one of the words in the spelling list, and again, as far as children are concerned, it's fun, but they're looking at and writing and thinking about the words and the letters as they go. One of the things that we do throughout Grammar 1 and 2 is to revise the main alternative spellings for the long vowel sounds for A, E, I, O and U. In Grammar 1, we look at them in isolation. So these are words that take the AI. These are words that take the AY. These are words that take the A hop over E. In Grammar 2, as you can see, we look at them more as groups and say, which spelling is right here? So annoy. Okay, it's not the I, because I, shine, doesn't like coming on the end of the word, so it must be this one. So we're using our ears, we're using our eyes. Okay. So we're putting them together and we're making decisions about which spelling that we need, and we're building up their knowledge of spellings as we go. In Grammar 3, we introduce or we do a lot of spelling on a single vowel letters making their long sound. Normally or often, the single letters just make the short sound, a, e, or and we say they've got to have a second vowel letter with them to make the long sound, the A, E, I, O, or U. But actually, there are occasions in English, because it's that sort of language, where it can make its long sound. For reading, actually, it's quite easy to cope with, because, again, right from the very beginning, we tell them, if one way doesn't work, try the other. So if you can't get the word with A, try A. Or if you can't get the word with A, try A. And again, our vowel hand, we say, if A doesn't work, try A. If E doesn't work, try E. If it doesn't work, try I. If O doesn't work, try O. If R doesn't work, try U, or sometimes U. Again, particularly around here, it's a dialect. The pure U sound doesn't exist locally. We have newspapers, computers, but you do have to adapt. There are lots of different dialects. They're not right or wrong, they're just a dialect, and you do have to adapt according to where you are teaching. Okay, up north in the UK, they say bath. No, they say bath. Down south where I'm from, they say bath. Okay. It's just the way words are pronounced, and you just accept that and you explain why, and the children are, quite happy with it. If they ask a question, answer it. It's not an exact science. There are exceptions to every rule. There will be the child who, when you're teaching ch right at the beginning, will say to you, but my name's Christopher, and it's got that at the beginning and it says k. And you say, yep, you're quite right. But actually, it's because your word we have taken from Greek, and actually the ch in Greek says k. The Christ is k. So I explain it to them and they're quite happy. Okay, we don't just say, oh, well, we won't talk about that now. I don't know if they need to explicitly teach it, but if it comes up or there's reason for it, then I tell them why. They're bright, they're intelligent, they're learning, they're curious. So as I say, we teach AI to start with, we teach AY if it comes at the end, a hop over E, and now they can add to their list of alternatives that sometimes the A, like in acorn, that comes off the oak tree, it says A. So we do a series of spelling weeks on that. We cover in Grammar 3 things like in the word junk, if you listen to it carefully, it's that wiggle your nose up, k at the end. It's saying It does say it actually in words sometimes where there's a g as well. But we look at that. The l sound at the end of a word like apple, okay, we don't just have the L, what we normally have is the LE. So we teach it, they can cope with it, that's fine. Okay, then we go on and we look at things like kitchen. Okay, you can sort of hear that t if you're listening very carefully, it's there. But actually, kitchen, you tend to miss it. So we teach these are the words, and actually, remember that t. Hedge, it's the same idea. Hedge, you don't actually hear that d, and you've also got that soft g, that j on the end, and we teach about soft c and soft g. So c and g actually have two sounds. C can be k, or it can be s, if it's followed by an E, I, or Y letter. Okay, cycle, bicycle, CY, making that sound. Same with G, can make a G sound, but if it's followed by an E, I, or Y, it says J. So that's why we have gem and gym. Okay, so we teach that so the children are aware of it. And again, when they're reading, if one way doesn't work, try the other, because sometimes, again, there are exceptions, but I say that nice little rule will help them navigate. Right, we teach things like although originally we've taught IE as I, actually it can sometimes say E. It goes with the spelling room, I before E except after C, as long as you want to make the sound E. People only know the first bit of the rule. Okay, so we teach a whole load of words that follow that rule. As I say, Y is a cousin to I. So in the word miss, okay, we've looked at my, where it's making the long I sound, but in myth, it's actually making the short I sound. The bath and bath conundrum, same with glass and glass and grass and grass. I have to think about that because it's just, okay, so we teach that. The often says z or more of a z sound, even in such a common word as is. It's not is, it's is, it's that z, and then se and ze at the end of a word. It's really a digraph for the sound z, and bronze. You can hear that z on the end, so it's a digraph. And then we have our a. When it follows a W, it often makes an O sound. It's just one of those strange effects they have on each other. So we have words like, you know, swan. So that A actually makes an O sound. And there's a whole list of words, as I say, that take that. Then we move on to some more sort of word pattern-y type words. So we've got 3 letters in a lot of them. We've got what we call a silent digraph in the GN. It's not gnome or gnu, all right? It's gnome. The G is silent. They've already learned that PH can say F, but actually sometimes GH also says it as well. So again, we're moving their knowledge on just a little bit at a time, adding on to things they already know. And we begin to look much more closely at some of the suffixes. So in Grammar 3 in particular, we look at less and able and the effect that they have on the words. So Grammar 4 sheets are very, very similar. They have the spelling list. They will have an activity, a similar sort of activity. These are anagrams in 3. They will have some revision. And then at the bottom of the sheet, they will have parsing, which is identifying the job of the words in a sentence. So which is a verb, which is a noun, all those sorts of things, and underlining it in the coloured pencils, in the colours that we have for our parts of speech. You can download a little poster from our resources board at Jolly Learning, which gives you the colours that you can put up in the classroom if you would like to. And then we have our tense tent in the corner, and you have to, or the children have to identify which tense the sentence is in. And again, because they're doing it every week, they become really, really good at it and they enjoy it. The thing about Grammar Handbook 4 is actually it has a second sheet for the spelling, because obviously the children are getting older and they're getting more able. At the top, there is room for the dictation. Dictation is quite important and not valued as much as it should be, I think, in terms of education. To dictate to the children means that you practice words and tricky words and spellings that you know you've been working on. We give you the sentences to dictate. Again, if it's English to the foreign or additional language, you are reinforcing, you know, correct grammar, because you've got, you know, the sentences right. So the children are hearing the correct grammar of things and then writing it down. And then again, on that sheet, there will be revision of something. In here, it's to do with punctuation, but it will change every week depending on what you've been doing. But a chance to revise and again, assess. Do they know it? If they know it, you don't have to worry. If they don't know it, I think I might have to do more teaching on that, or take that child aside or give them an extra piece of homework. Okay. Again, all the time assessing. In Grammar 4, we come across, we teach quite a lot about what's called the schwa, which is actually the most common vowel sound in English. And it can be any of the vowel sounds and vowel spellings, because it's really nasty like that. And it's that one, you know, like at the end, we don't actually say doctor. That's the most famous one. We don't actually say doctor, doctor. We say doctor, that sound. And actually, when children write it, you quite often get it spelt as ER. But as I say, it can be any. And it's just pointing out to them that, you know, a word like panda, that on the end, actually it's panda. Okay. And if you emphasize the letter that it's supposed to be, it will help to learn how to spell it or to remember how to spell it. When you're blending the word, it doesn't matter so much. Panda. They tweak it, they get it. Okay, particularly in that one, it's at the end of the word. So they've virtually got the word before they've got there. Lemon, le-e-m, and it's not really lemon, it's it's that sound again. Okay, so we go over those. And again, it's just, as I say, lemon, emphasize the sound that it should be as a way to help them to remember how to spell it. Eventually, you know, it goes into your motor memory, your muscle memory for spelling. It goes into your head, it goes into your brain, it goes into your eyes. But to begin with, and there are lots of people who even today, including myself, go Wednesday, library, you know, and emphasize particular letters in a word to help remember how to spell it. We go over the OR, making an sound. Again, that W is making trouble for us. Instead of warm, it's worm. And hunch, again, it's just a letter pattern that comes up quite often, but again, you can lose some of the sounds in it. Suffixes, we're going to have a look at some of these later, but we go over a lot of those that you put on to the end of words. And we do some more prefixes. Okay, so again, as you can see, there's common themes that build up across them. We do quite a lot of work on prefixes and suffixes. Okay, prefix, beginning, okay, are added to the beginning of words. Okay, we spend a lot of time in Grammar 3 and 4 looking at root words and word families and how, if you know this and you know that, and if it goes together, so you're building up their knowledge. So prefixes are added to the beginning of words and suffixes are added to the end of words. Nice and simple. Okay. There are rules attached to how we attach these suffixes. And actually, the children will know these because if they made the regular past tense, they have to add ed. Now, ed is a suffix that we are adding to the root word. Okay. So they have learned some of the rules already, and it's exactly the same rules that apply if we put any other suffix on. So if you have a look, we've got cheerful. That's fine. That's no problem at all. We just put the root word and the suffix. Okay. Hopeful. That's the same. If it was ed, however, we would have dropped the e and put the d on. So it'd be hoped. Happiness. Again, we've got the shy eye. The shy eye has gone away and y has come for the word happy. But because we've got this suffix on the end and it's no longer on the end, the I has come back. And sunny, we need to double that end consonant because otherwise that Y acting as a vowel would act U and we'd have Sunni, okay, which isn't the word that we're after. So they've learned to double the consonant, same something like hugged, hug. Okay, we want to have hugged, so we need to double that g on the end. It's exactly the same rules as they had learned previously that they are applying in these circumstances. In the back of the handbook, we have some templates with fish heads with prefixes on and bodies with root words, and there's some tails with the suffixes on. And actually, I've cut out some quite simple shapes in coloured card. They're, I don't know, roughly about hand size. And we put prefixes, suffixes, root words on, and I can make sets up and I can have them in the classroom, and the children can play about with them and have a look at how it changes a word. Is it a real word? Can I say this? And they make them up and really enjoy, playing with them. If you do put some blank heads and blank tails in, because not everything has got a prefix and a suffix, again, particularly if EFL or EAL, I might put in a set of words with a group of fish that they need to make up to help them. When they've made them up with the fish, then you can get them to write them down. Again, they then need to apply those spelling rules that they've learned. If you see number 5 says unhappiness, when they write that as one word, they've got to remember about that shy I and the Y to go away. Fortunate, we don't have the E and the A together. Okay, so you can revise, you can check the things that you've taught them as well. So, and actually some words can have more than one prefix or more than one suffix. And again, they have, fun putting bits of fish together to make words and see how it affects the meaning, because it can make it the opposite. Painful, painless. And again, this shows where there is a crossover between spelling rules or spelling and grammar, because actually by adding suffixes, you can change the part of speech. Okay, so if you have a noun and it has a suffix y, it becomes an adjective. Okay, so dust, the dust on the table, or a dusty table, it's now an adjective. Okay, the noise was terrible. Okay, it was a noisy room. It's an adjective. And again, because we're adding that y, the e has gone and it's just been replaced by the y. Okay, the mud was terrible. Okay, the boots were muddy, the muddy boots. It's an adjective, but it's changed the part of speech. And again, because we do a lot of parsing with children, this can help them work out which part of speech and which word they should be using. Right, so if we add al to a noun, it becomes an adjective as well. Magic, magical. Okay, that's straightforward. We've just added it on. Bride, bridal. Okay, the bride, the bridal suite. The E goes, it's replaced by the AL. Orchestra, orchestral. Okay, we don't need 2 A's, we've only added 1. It was the orchestra, the orchestral flute. It's an adjective because we have changed the spelling of it and we have added a suffix. Okay, not just nouns. We go through these in the handbook. We take one at a time. We explain it to the children. They have some words to play with and to look at and to sort out. And they find it really easy because you have given them all the knowledge they need in order to get to this point. So we have the adjective quick. It was a quick test. Okay. If we add ly, quickly, they ran quickly, it's an adverb. Okay, adjective gentle, the gentle giant. Okay, he stroked the cat gently. And again, quickly is fine, we've added ly, gently, we don't need that e, and we don't need a double l, so we've got our spelling rules we've applied there. Easy, it was an easy test. They did the test easily. Okay, it's an adverb, it's easily. And again, the y is gone, the I has come back, and we've added the ly onto the end. So say the crossover between spelling and grammar is definitely there and very obvious in things like that. I just wanted to make sure you knew what day it was. If we've got an adjective, I see it says noun here, I'm going to have to change that, aren't I? And that's just a slip of the
it's just, it made me laugh yesterday. Where I got
slip of the editing suite. Okay, apologies. So basic. Okay, if we add Ali, it's basically. It becomes an adverb, basically. Okay, so we can see that the spelling and the grammar are overlapping. The rules that they have learned in one, they can apply to all the other things. It's not constantly learning new things, it's applying what they know and applying it to the situation in front of them. Now, as I said, the basic way of approaching how to spell a word is by sounding out, by using your ears. Okay. We teach them for longer words, like in grammar 1, the last word in the spelling list is always a compound word. So that's a word made up of 2 smaller words that you can break up, and you think of it in those 2 smaller words in either in order to help spell it. Because if I said to all of you, if I could see you all up on the screen with your cameras on, everything, and I suddenly said to you, right, I would like you to either read or spell the word sesquipedalium for me, you would probably look horrified because you're thinking, I didn't even hear what she said. I don't know what it was, a big long word, I can't remember it. Oh my goodness me. Okay, you'd probably be fairly horror struck. You need to be able to repeat the word to hear it. Okay, and then you actually then, what we all do is we break it down into bits, and those bits that we tend to break it down to is syllables. So we teach the children about syllables, about chopping, that's why we've got the wood and the axe, about chopping the words into smaller bits. So as I say, we've started with compound words. We look at words with prefixes and suffixes because, again, you know, they know that un is prefix and that the root word is kind. So unkind, that's where you will chop the word. There are a number of rules around syllable splitting. They are explained in the book, in the handbook. There are disagreements about how you should split words, but we have set out how we do ours, and we have tried to take a view that agrees with most of the different theories that are out there. But basically, we talk about chopping up words, and it goes around the sounded vowel sound, okay? Which is why, again, at the bottom here, this is the first time they come across it. Again, we have the little loops and the lines and the dots to emphasize to them about the vowel sounds. Okay, so we talk about syllables because as the words become longer, this is what we need in order to be able to attack new words for reading. So again, if you think about a long word, if you tried sounding that out sound by sound, by the time you've got to the end of it, if you're anything like me anyway, okay, you can't remember what you started with. Okay, all you've got is a long string of sounds that don't really mean very much. You know, it's very difficult to blend them because actually you haven't got them. So what do you do if you are going to read that word? Okay, I bet what most of you have done is you have split it into little bits. You've anti, dis, est, dis, est, and you've broken down into little bits, and you've got to the word anti-disestablishmentarianism, which is supposed to be one of the longest specialist word in the dictionary. Okay, so as I say, they go around the sounded vowels. It actually sometimes, or it does explain about why you've got a short or a long vowel sound, or they've got an open syllable, an open vowel sound on the end of the syllable. But as I say, you can do lots of reading up about syllables because they're quite interesting, and it does get quite complicated. But as I say, we are talking about small children here, and we have to find ways for them and to make it easier. Okay, so we go around the sound vowel, and we also have things like, yeah, you could do clapping, bluebell, farmyard, playtime. Okay, that can help the beats in word because they tend to, they will go with the syllables. You can also do what we call chin bumps. So if you put your hand flat underneath your chin, if you say a word like bluebell, you have to emphasize it a bit. Okay, your chin bumps your hand twice. Blue bell, week end. Okay, and you can count the number of times it hits. It's just a fun way of helping. Okay, let's test your knowledge. Got 3 words here. I want you just to very quickly, while I have a slurp of my tea, that my lovely husband has just passed to me. Can you chop those words up into syllables, either by, just because you know, by using your chin bumps or by clapping and listening for the syllables? And there is a trick question in here as well, because I'm like that. Right, we have unkindness. Okay, we've got 3, and we've got a prefix and a suffix with our root word. Okay, we've got hunted. Okay. And then the last one, hunted is 2. Jumped. Now, you would expect it to have 2, and most people actually do. But if you remember, what I said was the sounded vowel. Okay, so in jumped, that ed at the end is making a t sound. So it's actually not a sounded vowel, although the e is there, and it's a suffix. But jumped, you've only got 1 chin bump. Okay. So it's a sounded vowel is the important thing to remember. But again, it's just a way of chopping the words up to make it easier for the children to cope with, both for reading and for spelling. And again, as I said at the beginning, what we're doing is not because we want them to know what a noun is, or that an ly changes a noun into this, or what a syllable is, or that English has two syllables in it. We do want to do it in practical terms. So of course, once you've talked about syllables, okay, we can talk about, and we can write things like haiku, Japanese poetry. It has 3 lines, 17 syllables. Okay, the first line has 5 syllables, the next line has 7 syllables, and the next line has 5 syllables. So I've had a go at one. Okay, so we have a spider drops down, there he is, dangles by a silken thread, hovers, and is gone. Okay, so 5 syllables, a spider drops down. Okay, so you get the children counting syllables. It's a fun way of giving them practice at counting syllables, but also they have to think about, what words do I need? I've only got 5 syllables. Okay, how am I going to use them to get the little story, the thing that I'm trying to say? Because normally, you know, with a haiku, there's a point to it. It's not just 3 random sentences. There is a reason. Okay, there are also things called tankers, which is 5 lines, has 31 syllables that are arranged 5, 7, 5, 7, 7. Okay, and cinquains, which are 5 lines. These work quite well in English, actually. You have 22 syllables, and they're arranged, as I say, they go up from 2, 2, 4, 6, 8, and then back to 2. And the idea is actually that last line is some sort of, you know, exclamation or impact. Or so we've got a web, beautiful and delicate silk, woven by a master spinner. A trap. Okay. So say that there are about spiders, but again, you know, any topic, things you're talking about, what you're learning about, it doesn't matter. But again, it's getting the children not only thinking about what they want to say, about how to spell it, about the number of syllables in it. You know, a lot of thinking, a lot of learning going on. And of course, these days, we have good old Twitter and tweets. Okay, it used to be, they are characters, not syllables, but, you know, we can adapt these things. But, you know, it was originally having your say in 140 characters. Apparently people found that really difficult. So it's now 280. But again, it's choosing the words that you're using to make sure you're using the most important words and not putting lots of words in that we really don't need there. So you can get them writing their own tweets. You can give them a syllable count rather than a character count, and they can write a tweet about something they're passionate about, news of the day, something that's going on at home, at school, their friends, you know. So you can apply in a very practical terms what you've been teaching them. You know, the same, we have been talking about grammar, but the grammar side of the teaching, again, this is the first sheets in grammar 3, and it goes over using a dictionary, because as I say, unless they can use it rapidly and with confidence, they won't. Okay, so we're looking at it, they put the words in alphabetical order, they check the spellings of those words, so they're using a dictionary for checking the spelling, and then they're looking up the meaning of those 2 bottom words. So again, they're using the dictionary in the different ways that it can be. If they can't do that, they're not good at it, give them practice, teach them. The next one is a little passage about snakes, and it's got all the parts of speech that we have taught or that the children should know, and they're supposed to identify them within that passage, underline them with the colour. So again, you can see if the children do know this and understand it. If they don't, then you need to put that teaching in. If they do, that's great, you can carry on. Right, we originally introduced verbs with the concepts of bees and the beehive, the busy bees, always doing things, and we had our simple tenses and our tense, as we've said, with our past, present and future, which has the auxiliary verb with it. Okay, the children will talk in all tenses, but it's just, as I say, explicit knowledge of doing things. We're moving this on. We start talking about participles. What is a participle? It is simply a word made by adding something to a verb or from a verb. And we start off by teaching the present participle, which is the verb plus the suffix ing. And again, we're going to apply exactly the same knowledge that the children already have. If we're adding ing, because it starts with that vowel I, okay, inject, that's fine. Injecting, we just add it. Stay, with that digraph on the end, again, that's fine. We can just add it. Boil, no problem. Shop, now there might be, okay. That's short O, we want shopping. Okay, so we need to double that P, otherwise we had shopping. And again, if we have wipe, we need to take that E away and add it to get wiping. Excuse me. Trigger finger there. So this is a participle. It's also used as the gerund, I don't know, you know, how people pronounce it differently, when it's acting as a noun. So I went shopping. And it can also be an adjective in something like a skipping rope, skipping, okay? It's an adjective, but we are introducing the present participle, and we are introducing it because we're going to look at our continuous tense. Okay, the continuous tense is sometimes called the progressive tense, particularly in the US. So we have our tense at the top. There's our simple past, I cooked, simple present, I cook, and the future, I will cook or I shall cook. One was more correct in the past, but these days they're more or less interchangeable. For continuous, you need the auxiliary verb to be, so you need to check the children know that, and the present participle. So the continuous past would be I was cooking. The continuous present was I am cooking, and the future will be I will be cooking. And the idea is with the continuous that you are still doing it, okay? I was cooking, I am cooking. The action hasn't finished. It is still ongoing in what you're talking about. So if we look at it in some sentences, okay, you can have a quick look and think, right, which tense is that first sentence in? Was cooking, so that's past continuous. Will be cooking, she will be cooking, okay, that's future. She is cooking, okay, she is doing it now. Okay, and I always have, I try and have on display somewhere some examples, so a little poster, something which has got the different tenses on, so that the children can look at the construction and see the difference between them. And actually in Grammar 4, at the bottom of the spelling sheet every week, we have a little sentence that you have to parse, and the tense next to it, and they have to parse the verb. So they have to decide what tense the verb is. So we're going to have a little go at that now. If we've got we are talking, and again, because the children do it every week, they are they get really good at this sort of thing. And we build up their knowledge and what they do and how they parse it as they go across the handbooks. So we are talking, is it singular or plural? Well, as it's we is more than one, so it's definitely plural. Right, first, second or third person. Okay, well, first person singular will be I. Second person singular is you. Third person singular, he, she, it. We is first person plural, because when you taught them about the pronouns, you always teach we with the action as including yourself. So obviously that makes it the first person because you're included. It's present because we are doing it. And it's a continuous because we have the present participle there. So by looking at it like that, the children are able to work out and be very clear in their minds about the continuous verbs and actually all the other tenses of verbs as well. They say lots of practice of that, and they quite, again, it turns into a little game really. We look at nouns. As I say, I'm trying to show some of the build-up of some of the things that we do across the grammar. We start off, we look at proper nouns, which need a capital letter, and they have an action and the colour black. Common nouns, which are most other things that aren't important, that don't have a capital letter. So not the name of you because you're important, but a chair, any old chair, doesn't need a capital letter. And we give them a very, very general rule. And again, we are talking about young children that if you can take a picture of it, very, very roughly, if you can take a picture of it, then it is probably a noun. Okay, so they know lots about nouns, but in Grammar 3, we introduce them to collective nouns, which is the name for a collection of things, for a number of things. And again, you can take different approaches to this if it is a foreign language that you're teaching it as, or if it is a native or a second language. Okay, so is it a herd of birds? Is it a bunch of flowers? Is it a library of trees? No, it's a flock of birds. Okay, we have, these are pictures from the handbook. You can copy them and they can make, they match the sets. It's a bunch of flowers. It's a forest of trees. Okay, but you can use these, again, they're things to know, but you can use these in lots of different ways. So they can paint some nice pictures. You can find lots of things about the place. Okay, we've got a herd of seahorses there, and you can get the, you know, they can paint it, write the collective noun on it. Again, you can make a display. It's rather nice. And again, if you're doing it, as I say, English, particularly the native language, but even if you're doing it as a second or foreign language, in order to get a bit of creative ideas going and using the language and playing about with it, you can be more creative and think of your own collective nouns. I think some of the collective nouns that are in existence were made up by somebody once upon a time. I'm not convinced that all of them were original, but there are some fantastic ones out there when you look at them. If you just have a very quick look here, because I am conscious of time, we could have a wriggle of octopuses, a cuddle of teddies, a twirl of dancers, a scream of monsters, a stripe of tigers, or a float of balloons. Okay, they're not real. They sound as if they could be. Okay, so we can get the children, again, they can draw the pictures, they can put them up on the wall, they can make a book, and they can sit and read through or look at it with each other, which is rather nice. Another activity you can do with them, this is my lovely and creative friend Hema, who is just full of ideas. She's brilliant. And she has her collective noun cauldron. So she gets the children writing a spell, which has a bunch of skeleton keys, a mischief of rats, a cluster of spiders, a rattle of bones. So again, they're using it creatively. And I love the fact, that you can pull it out of the cauldron when they've written it. And again, they can then read each other's spells, pulling them out of the cauldron. And it's a really lovely creative way of using the grammar that you're teaching in a practical way. We teach a lot of homophones through grammar 3 and 4 because we have a lot of them in English. Homophones, if you break it down, homo is the same, phone is a sound, so it's the same sound. When you're speaking, it's not so much of a problem. Okay, if you just say, there is a spider on the ceiling, everybody, as long as they understand English, knows what there is and what it means. The problem comes when you're writing them down, because actually a lot of them, or the ones that we go over, are actually, although they're homophones, they are also heterographs, which is different spelling. So it's the same sound, but a different spelling. And obviously the children need to be able to choose the correct one, or you're going to make a mistake. Some homophones are true homophones, like rose, which is a flower, and I rose up off the floor. Spelt the same, sound the same, okay? Others, as I say, aren't, and we do go over quite a lot of them. Again, you can get the children to write the words, draw a picture, put the word in a sentence to make sure they understand the meaning of each spelling. They find this quite fun. And again, sometimes what you can do is get them to draw a picture or write the word, and then they have to sort them out into the right spellings and things. Okay, to yourself, say that word. And say that word. I would expect the majority of you for the first one would have said Polish, and for the second one you would have said Polish. Okay. The reason you know that is because there's a capital letter at the beginning of it, and that's why you've made that change. Because actually, whether you realize it or not, you are understanding that Polish is actually a proper adjective, which is why it's got the capital letter. Okay, it's a homophone. No, it's not. It's it's spelled the same, but it has a different pronunciation. So, as I say, it's that capital letter at the beginning that has made the difference. And we call them proper adjectives when it's a country. So India, Indian, England, English, America, American. So we go over those and explain to them why we have the capital letter there. And it's quite good fun because you can look at flags, you can look at the different countries, get a bit of geography in, particularly with lockdown these days. We can't go anywhere particularly, but Google Earth is great. We can go and look at England and English things. We can go and look at Paris and France and French things. That's the Sydney Opera House at the bottom, Australia and Australian things. Okay, so we can use the technology and the things that we can do in order to help us even at the times when we can't actually go anywhere. Okay, so we've looked at collective nouns, proper adjectives, and then we start moving on to some other things like concrete and abstract noun. I said to begin with, what we told them was that if you could take a picture of it, or if you can put "at" or "the" in front of it, it is probably a noun. That is true for concrete nouns. But we actually have things called abstract nouns. We have a different action. They're thoughts. They're things that exist in abstract, not necessarily in the same way that I can touch the table. So they're things like love. Okay, it's a name of emotion, but you can show examples of love, but you can't touch love. Tide, time. Okay, so we teach about that. Again, you can have a go at deciding which one of those is a concrete noun, which one of those is an abstract noun. Okay. Again, you know, nice things to talk about, lots of vocabulary, lots of discussion about some of these things. Okay. And we have the actions and we've used them all the way through. As I say, to begin with, we often do things like, if I call out a word, I want you to do the action. So I'll call out, I know, London. So they go proper noun. And I say, what does that mean? It needs a capital letter. Or I might call out brush. I will get some of them saying it's a verb, to brush. I will get some of them going, it's a noun, like a hairbrush. So we've already introduced a concept to them that actually sometimes you need to be able to look at a sentence or a phrase and understand the role that that word is playing within the sentence in order to work out what it's doing. If you look at these 4 words on the screen, cottage, pumpkin, chicken, apple, if I said to you initially what were they, you would tell me they were nouns. Okay, so we have a little game, we have a little activity with them whereby we say, right, can you think of a word that if you put it after that, another noun that if you put after all those words, it would change those into adjectives. Okay, so we have the word pie, cottage pie, pumpkin pie, chicken pie, apple pie. Okay, so we have a set that they can do. Each of those next 3 sets, you can put a word after the words in each line, and it will change and they will be acting as an adjective. So we've got hat box, lunch box, letterbox, icebox, football, eyeball, mothball, cannonball, mushroom soup, carrot soup, tomato soup, cocktail soup. Okay, so we have analysing, they're looking at analysing sentences, what is each word doing. You know, again, we're getting them to look quite closely at sentences and words that they're using. Okay, in grammar 4, we looked at agreeing. So nouns, plurals and verbs all have to agree with each other. So if we have the sentence, the bird ate a berry from the bush, okay, if we make the nouns plural, the birds ate berries from the bush, it's still not right, is it? Because that's not right. It's not our berries, our is singular. The bird ate some berries from the bush. So again, getting them to analyse sentences and making sure that it's all right and that they all agree with each other. The boy has measles. The boys has measles. No, it doesn't sound right, is it? Because that verb's not correct now. The boys have measles. So as I say, we get them looking at sentences and making sure that they're correct. Again, it's another form of proofreading, which we also have been teaching them all the way through. We looked at pronouns. Okay, now pronouns can actually be possessive. They show who something belongs to. My book, your book, his or her book. And you know, it's another thing, isn't it? Because you could call them possessive adjectives then. Adjectives are describing who something belongs to. Again, it's another case of you know, looking at it and it's the same thing, but what is it doing? It is a pronoun, but it's now also being an adjective. It shows who it belongs to. And we have the plurals for possessive nouns. If you look at the two sentences, cats, the word cats, the apostrophe is in a different place. Why? Because the first one is singular, it's one cat. But if you have more than one cat, okay, it's plural. And actually that apostrophe goes after the S to show the difference between them. So we teach little things like that, which can make quite a difference. So we're building up this knowledge of grammar all the time. We've started off really with simple words and saying, right, it's a noun. We've added things like adjectives to it. It's a ginger cat, so it's a noun phrase. Okay, and in grammar 3 and 4 in particular, we start looking at sentences, which we have looked at. They've got a capital letter, they've got a verb, they've got a full stop, they make sense. Now, a sentence may or may not be a clause. Okay, a clause has similar things, but it's not, it doesn't stand alone in its own right. So an independent clause would, a subordinate clause doesn't. So you can have things like, as he ran around the corner, it fulfills some of the things of the sentence. It's got the capital letter, it's got ran, but it doesn't sort of stand alone by itself. So we start looking at these sorts of things and deciding, is it a sentence, is it a phrase? Is it a noun phrase? Is it an adjectival phrase? And we start looking at quite nitty-gritty bits of the grammar. As they say, build it up slowly, and the children actually really enjoy doing it. Another important thing we look at is the subject and object of a sentence, because this has effects in other things. Okay, all sentences have a subject, not all sentences have an object. Okay, so the cat chases a mouse. First thing we need to identify is the verb, which in this case is chased, because actually the subject of a sentence is the thing that does the verb. So in this case, it's the cat. The object of a sentence, if it has one, is the thing that has the verb done to it. So in this case, it's the mouse that is being chased. So we get the children to look at sentences, to find the verb, and to put a box around the subject and a little S sometimes, and an oval around the object and a little O sometimes. So they get, again, quite good at looking at that and doing it, which will help them as we go further on. And then with other things, the very famous my queen, my husband and I, or is it my husband and me? Who knows? Well, actually, we do know, we can know quite easily, because the pronouns, it changes depending on whether they are the subject or the object. And I have this little poemy thing that they can look at. I hugged Granny, Granny hugged me. And you can see how they change depending on whether it is the subject or the object. And again, that cuts out quite a lot of problems for many people once they understand that. They're writing more now, which is great, but obviously pages and pages and pages of writing are difficult to read. So actually we have get them to think about how to organize their writing, to put it into paragraphs. Okay, so I'm going to have a paragraph that I can write about me. I'm going to have a paragraph about my family. I'm going to have a paragraph about where I live. I'm going to have a paragraph about the sports that I play or the things that I do out of school. Okay, and then having planned it out on this sheet, they can then write it the following week or a different day. The sheet that you get, each section you can write your own heading in, so you can use this for other subjects as well, okay, to help them plan out and think about what they're going to say when they're doing a piece of writing. This can be quite difficult for some children, actually ordering their thoughts and getting them into an order that will make sense to somebody reading it. We also cover things like synonyms. I love this definition of it. It's so true. I have it all the time. But again, it's a way of encouraging children to learn vocabulary, to think about words, to think about the words they use. They've started off with our word webs. where they've looked at words and tried to find words with the same or similar meaning and how it will affect what they write and how it is read by somebody. But the same with antonyms. Antonyms is just a posh way of saying the opposite. Okay, so we look at a lot of opposites, which again, nice general knowledge, but it's not the only reason that we might look at them. As I say, a lot of what we're doing is because we want to see it in the children's writing. We want them to use it when they're doing things. We want them to be able to be very articulate. And you think, well, antonyms, opposites. I mean, it's great, isn't it? It's a bit of general knowledge. Yeah, I know, the opposite of day is night, and black and white and up and down. Oh, what am I going to do with it, really? Lots of things you can do with it, but I'm just going to show you a quote from Charles Dickens, a great writer. The beginning of The Tale of Two Cities. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. It was the age of wisdom. It was the age of foolishness. It was the epoch of belief. It was the epoch of incredulity. It was the season of light. It was the season of darkness. It was the spring of hope. It was the winter of despair. Okay. Now, those of you on the ball this morning, and after what we've just talked about, will suddenly think, hold on a minute, there's lots of opposites in there. The best, the worst. Wisdom, foolishness, belief, incredulity, light, dark, spring of hope, winter of despair. Okay, he's used these antonyms, these opposites, to produce a very powerful and very memorable and well known first line or first paragraph in his book. So to say, the reason for learning all this, is so that it comes out within the writing. For reading and spelling, you can get tests which say you have a reading age of 12 years. You have a spelling age of 8.6 years. Okay, there is nothing that does that for grammar. All you can do is hope, or that you can look at and see the style, the composition, the use of lots of different words in the writing of your children, to know that your teaching of the grammar is having the effect that you want it to have. Because what we hope is that, yes, they will spell and punctuate more accurately, which is a bit of a sort of, ground level basic stuff, but it's very important, because if you don't spell and punctuate properly, your letter of application for a job will probably go in the bin, because who wants to be represented by somebody who can't write a letter, can't spell, they should have a wide vocabulary because we've looked at a lot of different sorts of words. We've done lots of talking. We've done lots of thinking about things. Lot of particularly foreign language teaching goes on nouns. So they know a lot of nouns. They know some sentence structures, but not necessarily a lot of sentence structures. So hopefully, we will have covered a vast number of words within the course. And as I say, this is where you should be able to tell the difference, where they would produce better, more interesting pieces of writing. And we hope that they will have a clear understanding of how the language works and be able to apply it to anything they then want to say or write in future. And I've just got a last couple of slides, which I hope will demonstrate this. This is actually from a school up the road that I did some work with. This is a child doing grammar 4. And they were doing a whole project about theatres. And they went to the Globe Theatre in London, and they went to the local theatre here. And they did a little production for Assembly, and they talked about plays and a whole number of things that they did. including writing these little poems. And I think you can see from this poem, there's a lot of thought that's gone into the poem, the structure, the words that they've chosen. I thought it was just brilliant. Really, really liked it. I thought it was really, fantastic. But, this is what we are aiming for. And I've also got this one. Now, this one is quite interesting because, as I say, this little girl, it's not mine. She was, in fact, taught by Karina, who is out in Malaysia. So English is not her first language or her native language. They learn about 4 or 5 different languages and cope with all of them at a very young age. But this is one of her pupils' pieces of writing. As I say, she's 8 years old. She just completed Grammar 4. And again, you can see very, very confident in her use of writing. Slightly, killing him with poison and everything. But you can see from it, she cooked instant noodles for him. Not just his instant noodles. He couldn't find the relevant poison. Such a good use, a good word to use for a secret merchant to deliver a special order. For someone whose first language is English, it's a lovely, you can see lots of use of the types of words that she has been learning about and putting them in. He spent extravagantly. It's just lovely. It's really, really nice. I was so pleased when, as I say, Karina showed it to me and sent me the copy of it. I just think it shows, this is what we are hoping that all of our children will be able to sort of aim for and get towards. So I think if I stop sharing now, that means we do have 15 minutes for questions. I do have to say, I spend quite a lot of time with grammar. I teach grammar, I do grammar, but I don't know everything. I am I will do my best to answer the question, but I'm not a grammarian at university level. I am a primary school teacher. And if I don't know, I will say that.
Thank you so much, Sara. I think somebody's raising a hand. We've got Prachi. Let me unmute them. I think, Prachi, you'll be able to unmute yourself to ask a question to Sara.
Hello, Sara. I
Hello.
just wanted, hello, I am a teacher in pre-primary school in Ghaziabad, India.
Yeah.
And I want to know that I am teaching tricky words these days, and I have seen there's some updation in the app of Jollyphonics. So can you please tell me about that? Do we have to teach those tricky words as per the new updated version? Thank you.
Is that the lessons app you're talking about?
The app which I have just updated, Jolly Lessons, Jollyphonic app. There's an app.
That actually, on the whole, goes out through USL and Jolly Technologies platform. And basically, there's a glitch in that app. When they updated it yesterday or the day before, whenever it was, there was a glitch. And it has mixed up all the tricky words. So if you will look, instead of being the first set of tricky words are in the first list, the first set of tricky words are all the first word in each list. And then the second set of tricky words are then the second word in the list. It's something to do with the way, some glitch in the way the program has been written, and it's reordered them in that way. So no, stick to the original groupings, and the app, I am told, is being debugged. Is that the right word? And they should at some point come back and appear in the correct order.
Thank you so much, Sara, and it is wonderful teaching Jolly Phonics. I just want to tell you that the children of our school, they are so enthusiastic to learn about it, and they are reading easily, and parents are very surprised to see that the 3-year-old child is reading 5-6 letter words. So this is this is the beautification of this is the beauty of this Jolly Phonics. So
So when
thank you for giving such a wonderful thing, so that we can teach children English in a better way. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
we want to give them the skills so that they can, then forge on their own. Once they've got the basic skills and they understand these things, then they can apply them to new words, to new things, because it just makes it so much more interesting then, doesn't it?
Thank you so much for the question. Anybody else for a question, please?
A lot of the information that you need is in the handbooks. The teacher's notes or the teacher's notes section is very comprehensive. I know some trainers who say, you don't need training, just read the notes.
It's true, Sara, because everything is mentioned there, but would you like to give some tips to our teachers who are using Jolly Grammar in their schools about how to use this, these handbooks judicially and efficiently?
And sometimes, it's nice to hear, someone talk about it, because actually that's a different way of presenting it. And as I say, I do like to try and say how you can broaden it out and apply it to other teaching. I think, is it Ruchika?
Ruchika, unmute yourself and please ask the question. There you go.
Good evening, ma'am.
Yes.
First of all, I want to appreciate, it was really a very nice session for teachers also to learn such kind of good things. I want to know, I am a PRT English teacher, but my daughter is in UKG class when she is learning Jolly Phonics. I want to know that sometimes children get confused, like sound TUB, tub, right? So sometimes tube is written and child is trying to read the given word, and child is reading b. Child is getting confused, such kind of words. So we have to correct them, or we have to just go with the flow that they will try to learn the words. What we have to do at that time?
Well, if the child is being asked to read a word like tube, they should have been taught about the split digraphs. So they should have been taught that that is coming on the end, the influence is coming back to make that R into a U. Okay, so if you're sitting with your child and she's saying that, then you point that out. You say, oh, look, that's got that it's got that letter at the end. What's that doing? So that's turning that R to a U. So T, U, B, and model it, for her in that way. And the other one for reading that you can do is that, if you're going tubbe and it's not making a word, the children do have to have the words in their vocabulary, but if it's going tubbe, you're saying, is that a real word? Is that a word? And they're going, nah. Okay, if that way doesn't work, try the other. If art doesn't work, try you, but tube. And before they've got to the they've got the word. So it's a question of pointing it out and modeling it to them and saying, that these two are linked, but they're separate. And pointing out that when you can, my friend Tina calls them flipping, when you can flip them, or that, you point out, when I'm doing the grammar sheets with my children, I haven't got one here, but what I do is I have what I call my hop over specs. So I will actually, a different color down here somewhere. Yeah, I have. I will get them, I will write words. And I do my hop over specs. Can we see that? Hang on, let's.
Yes, you can see, ma'am.
Okay, get my hop over specs, and
Yeah.
I go over the U, and I join it to the E, perhaps with a highlighter pen or something, to reinforce that idea that those two letters are working together. Or I might get 4 children out the front. One holds a T, one holds an A, one holds a B, one holds an E. Okay. And then I will tell the ones with the U and the E to hold hands behind the other child. And they have to say their sounds. They have to go T. Then the 2 children together go U. And then the last child goes B. Okay. So again, that reinforces that it's those 2 sounds that are working together and actually making a different sound, which is what's a digraph. And then with practice like that, they get the hang of it, and then their eyes will automatically track and they will come to saying it. But it is practice, it's modeling, and it's pointing out that that's what that at the end is doing. And if tabet isn't making a word, then it's not a word.
If children have not yet started learning digraphs, they have not started learning digraphs, then how it is beneficial for them? Is it right to correct them in between when they are trying to join the simple letter sounds?
Well, if they haven't been taught, I mean, our basic rule is if they haven't been taught it, you shouldn't be asking them to read it or write it. You know, we teach off with a basic set of digraphs, and I wouldn't give them it as a word to write, but if they wrote me TUEB for a child, I would count that as correct until they had learnt the digraph. And when they had learnt the digraph, I would then point out to them that that was how that word, you know, was spelt, and again model it for them until it's got into their spelling bank and their word bank, as it were. But if they're not, then they shouldn't be reading it. If as a parent you're reading it, because you don't, or, you know, as a teacher, you read a controlled, a decodable reader with your child. As a parent, you're reading any book, and when they come to it, you know, it's again, like I say with, you know, my name's Christopher, and it's not Christopher, okay? I just explain it, you know. It's like all things in life. You just explain it to them, and you just say, you know, if you are reading it with them, I would either stop them or say, well, this has got a spelling in you don't know, you know, point it out before they fall. Or, you know, if they then say, well, that's not right, you say, well, you just haven't learned that way of spelling the U sound yet. The word is tube. You haven't spelt that. You haven't learned that. But this is another way how it can be spelt, and those 2 letters. And I, you know, on the whole, as I say, I find things that, you know, they understand quite happily, and take it on board. And again, actually, although you then just said it to them in a bit of an offhand way, when they, you know, then meet us again at school or somewhere else, oh yeah, I know that. Oh, I know something about that. You know, it rings some bell in the back of their mind, and you know, then it's easier then for them to learn it when they come to it.
Thank you, ma'am.
Right, I'm trying to read some of the questions on on here. Yes, about spelling rules. Yeah, I mean, as I say, it's terrible. English has a lot of different things. You know, we try and make it as easy as possible by learning a particular thing and then applying it, but it is lots of repetition. You know, lots of repetition. We repeat rules, we repeat words, we repeat things and revise them as often as we can, because again, that is repetition is what gets things into children's head. And actually reading, the more a child reads, the more vocabulary they will learn, they will remember, and actually it will improve their spelling. This is what the science is telling us. But again, as I say, you know, you do it once and it might go into some of them. You do it twice, it goes into a few more. But, you know, do not just teach something one week and think they've all learnt it. Okay, but you know, our spelling lists, they build up and they use some of the spelling patterns and things that we've had the previous week. So again, as I say, when you're going through them, when you're doing them, point that out, you know, continually remind them, yeah, okay, we're going through this spelling list and it's got these letters for this week in, but the week before last, we were doing the soft C, okay, and this word has got the soft C in. So point it out, even though you're 3 weeks on, you know, things that you're learning, things that you've been concentrating on, continually point it out and reinforce it. You know, if they've given you a piece of writing, you know, and they've used it, oh, that's really great. You know, you've remembered that was the case, or that's the spelling for it. You know, and if they haven't, again, it's just a bit of modeling, a bit of positive reinforcement, and you know, eventually these things do fall into place. Sadly, we don't have a magic wand. So yeah, the oo and the oo and you, it's got a special name that I can't remember now, but it's to do with pronunciation. Because if you try to say flute, okay, you can't do it. Your mouth goes into gymnastics. So it's over time the sound has sort of gone to the oo, the flute, because actually you can just say the word easily, which, as I say, is why I always go you oo, which will help them remember that. But technically the spelling is all linked to the same. As I say, it's just because your mouth can't actually get around it if not.
Thank you.
I think that is all. I mean,
no, 1 second. Ma'am, this is Sheetal here this side.
all right.
Very good morning, Miss Sara, and very good morning to the mentor. It was a wonderful session, and trust me, I've learned a lot. I myself is a Jollyphonic trainer, but I have done this Jollyphonics in 2014, and since then, ma'am, I couldn't, apply to it. But I think since past 6 months, I've started applying. So it would be great if I get a bit of, guidance from you, as a lot of things have changed now in Jollyphonics as well. Is there any other platform which I could, again, restart my journey by learning what all is going on right now in Jollyphonics? If you have any, teacher or anybody who can, just help us to come across everything what is going on currently.
Well, there's the CPD course, which has got everything within that. I mean, on the whole, we don't tend to change things. We might add new products or things, but the basic core of the teaching and the learning and everything has remained the same. I am hoping, we are all hoping, please, that we will get our conference in person this year rather than online. I don't know if you ever come to that, or and there are various groups on the internet, on WhatsApp, that various of the Jolly trainers run, and things go out on there, like the USL one that was mentioned earlier. There are quite a lot of different groups out there that you could look up and join. As I say, some of our really good trainers in India and in other places run some excellent sessions online. Victoria Carlton does a lot in Australia and via Singapore with Chuye. September 21 bookstore, very, very informative, does lots of different courses. Yvonne Delgado in Spain, and also she does a lot of work in India. She does a lot of courses as well. She's excellent. I believe Jigna and Hema in India do a lot of courses. So Hema.
Are you talking about Jigna Dharod?
Yeah, I think she does a lot. And as I say, Hema I know does loads, because I've done, she does occasionally very kindly ask me to pop in, and I do. And yeah, there are lots of things going on online. If you tap in, you will be able to find lots of things going on.
Okay, so I would just like to end with this grammar session was wonderful. And if are we going to get the certificate on this?
I don't know what's Sara.
Yeah, I'll take over that. So Sara will inform me about that, ma'am.
Okay, fine. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, ma'am, for your time and patience.
Pleasure. It was really lovely.
Thank you,
Okay.
Sara. Also, I wanted to ask you, is Jolly Grammar planning to launch something in digital resources? Because our schools keep asking us for the digital resources. Because, you know, it's like 2 years that we are online and...
Yes. Yes.
Really?
That was my next question, and you gave this question. Thank you so much.
We had been working on something for the whiteboard, but sort of, you know, technology moves on at a very fast pace, doesn't it? Then we've had various issues with the platform that some of the videos and things have moved on, and we are supposed to have been well, last year we were supposed to have launched the Jolly Classroom, which will be our new digital platform, which will be updatable. You know, in the past, the whiteboard, it was a program that you bought, and it, you know, once you'd bought it, it was on there and it didn't change. This one should be much more adaptable. We'll be able to add things. It's lovely, it's fantastic, it's super duper. It's had a few teething problems, but hopefully the new digital platform of Jolly Classroom will be out for the first year for next year, and after that the plan is, and I have got some very preliminary work on, that we will then move on up the grammar, and that, yes, will be added in the future.
So you mean 2023, that's going to be the first year for digital?
I'm not putting any dates on it.
All right. Because we're really looking forward to it.
I'm hoping that will be the case. But as I say, you know, technology is so fantastic and wonderful and complicated these days. A bit like with the app, they did an upgrade, nobody realised, and the tricky words have all moved into a different order. These things happen, and you have to get over them. So yes, that's the hope and the expectation.
Thank you so much. We are really looking forward to it. It's really nice to know that you're working on it already.
Yes.
So it'll soon come out, that means. Same here. Right. Thank you so much. One last question.
Hi, ma'am. May I intervene in between? I have a last question, if it is allowed. Suman Saxena this side from Subodh Public School, Rambagh, Jaipur, Rajasthan.
Yeah.
May I raise my question, please?
Yeah, the last question for the day, please.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I just wanted to know how we can start teaching students of primary classes the difference between digraph and diphthong.
We don't bother. We just tell them it's a digraph. And
Okay.
actually, no, OI is a digraph. AI is a digraph. We just teach them that they're digraphs.
Okay. It seems a little difficult to make things clear at young age. So, ma'am, what can be the best solution to teach that?
Well, as I say, we just teach them. I mean, they learn within the basic 42. They learn things like oi and ow and oi, and they just learn them as a digraph in the same way that a shirt and a churt and a 30s. And actually, I think sometimes it's adults who put a lot of complexity onto it, and you know, higher level grammarians who want to grill down into the nitty gritty, which is great and it's fine at that point. But you know, when you're 4 or 5 and you're learning the sound a or oi, you know, and you know it's the letters oi and it makes the sound oi and it's in the word and I can read words and I can write them with it. You know, you don't really need to go to a much greater depth of complexity for the children at that point, to be honest. You know, I mean, our children, they learn them as one of the digraphs. It's not a problem.
All right.
Just don't overcomplicate it. Don't make your life difficult. You know, people say to me about digraphs, and I say, well, look, you know, you very happily teach the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you very happily teach 10, 11, 12. It's exactly the same. You have 2 numbers that you've told them are one thing, and now you're telling them there's something different when they come together. And actually, nobody balks at that. But for some reason or other, when you start putting 2 letters together and I'm making a different sound, suddenly, we can't do that.
Certainly.
Yeah, we can. So say, just tell them it's a digraph and that's it. At that age, you know, they don't need any more, they don't need to know more than that.
Right, right. One quick
Indeed.
last
Thank you so
question.
much, ma'am.
One quick last question I'm getting on my phone, you know, from one of the schools about, is glowy a phonic word? Glowy, Glowy.
Glowy. It's a bit of a made up word, I would think, really. I don't know whether it's even in the dictionary, but why would they want to know? I'm a bit bemused by that question.
So I think we need to look up in the dictionary first, school, and then we'll.
I mean, the word glow, obviously, you know, glows with light is.
It's an adjective,
Giving
ma'am.
off on
Glowy,
steady light.
Glowy. It's an adjective.
I don't think people would write glowy, but people might when they're talking, because I mean, you do use a lot more informal language when they're talking. They might say, well, you know, that the glowy thing over there, or the. But on the whole, it would be an informal word if it was used at all.
Yes. All right. Thank you, Sara. Thank you so much. I thank the audience too. And we're looking forward to see you in the next session for Grammar 5 and Grammar 6. And so, yeah, we're looking forward to that. Thank you so much, Sara. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, audience, for being here, because without you, nothing would have been possible here. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Nice to see you again.
Thank you. Thank you, Sara.
Sara, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Bye.